David, in another paddock of yours, more about plant succession, the season.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, this paddock actually was one of the, about 8 years ago, we had a little bit of Cole Seiss's seed mix, which is Pasture, the native millet, bit of Chloris, which is the umbrella grass, probably a couple of other species, a little bit of exotic summer growing things like some of the pigeon grasses which have been introduced. Very little of that, but there is some. Possibly a little bit of red grass. So this country had, it was just grams per hectare sown on it with some oats. And the oats was a failure, it was a dry year.
How long ago was this?
8 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yep. But now if you look, there's a lot of bare ground in this paddock, which I'm not sure if you can see.
See a bit of that.
We're in
there.
a very bad patch here, which is good. I like to show the bad things too.
Yes.
But the important thing is that these, there's some diversity happening. This is Microlina, but this here, this is the Pasture, and it's been grazed. It had a lot of, it was that high, 60 centimetres high when we grazed it. The cattle grazed it pretty heavily, but it's all gone back to seed. So there's a huge amount of seed in this paddock that's going to be beneficial next summer. So all these plants they'll become dormant. As soon as we get a frost, they'll stop, bang, just like that. And we're lacking cover in this country, but it's at least 2 months, maybe 3 months before stock will be back here. So
when do they come out here?
They came out here early February.
Early February.
Yeah. So I think there was rain after they came out, and there was a lot of growth, but it hasn't been as much growth as there wasn't enough rain to actually kickstart. It was too early really for the autumn germinating species. So the little clover plants and things that we can see here, they're really starting to struggle because it's exactly a month today since it rained. So, and it's been hot. It's been up to 28 degrees for a month, which is very hot for April. So all those little plants that normally are the ground cover ones for the autumn and through the winter and into the spring, they're all struggling now because the perennials that are here have been active. So the perennials have been gobbling up the moisture, and the little annuals that have germinated in between are starting to battle. So we're hoping that they'll get through till the next shower of rain, whenever that may be. But it's still very exciting to see so many of these natives. This was all, was cropping country, sown down to Phalaris, cocksfoot clover, a little bit of lucerne here and there. Those plants have sort of gone into the background a little bit, and these native summer growers are taking over. So that's very exciting because it's so easy to spread the seed with stock from this point. Yep. And
you just the other week did some spreading of.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, we've had Owen Whittaker from over at Yass. He's got a business called Natural Capital.
Is he on a website?
I'm sure he would be. Yeah.
So there you go. On plug.
Yeah, Natural Capital.
Great.
He's sort of trying to retire a little bit, I think, Owen, but
he's not the retiring type, though.
No, he's not. He's not. He's pretty excited about his job, but he has done a lot of native grass harvesting over the years, and I've had him here on 2 or 3 occasions, just with a mix of some of Cole's stuff, some Microlina, bit of red grass here and there, and I just get him to drive through the paddocks we choose to do. He bulks it up with some sawdust or vermiculite, one of those bulking up agents to get it to run a little better, because a lot of the native species have got fluffy horns and they don't want to run. He's got a little gadget in the bottom of the hopper that encourages it to run a bit. But anyway, he was here the other day and we did about 8 or 10 paddocks, and he's just, it's a blower, this thing. It's got a big air fan in it. It goes through a sort of a venturi and it spreads it in 2 directions, either side of the truck. It doesn't go that far because the seed's light, but with this sawdust with it, gives it a bit more weight to go further. Do it on a windy day, that's a benefit. Yeah, so you don't expect any results, maybe even for several years. You know, we've seen this season just gone. We've seen a huge leap forward with the amount of stuff that's come up in paddocks where we haven't seen much, but the seed is still there and was obviously dormant, but the conditions suited it, and a lot of it's really grown well, and so we're getting. We're not ever trying to be a native grass farm, but I'm mindful that if you get a big year and you've got a lot of these summer growing natives, the seed is incredibly valuable, and you know, there's a shortage of it. There's no harvest for these summer growing species that I know of this year. So all the seed that was gone, there wasn't much last year. Cole Sice had some because he got a late storm, but that seed is very valuable and it's very short supply. So we're really waiting for another 12 months before there's any of this seed available. So if you've got a lot of it, it could be something worth managing for a harvest.
And when Owen harvests, so he's got a machine.
Yeah, he's got a machine.
Grasshopper, what are they called?
We were out at a field day out at Frogmore, and there was a terrific lot of redgrass out there, and he came in and harvested some of that seed, did a deal with the landowner as to what its value was, but I'm not sure what that was. But it's quite expensive for the bloke who does the harvesting. If he wants to present a good clean sample, it's got to be clean, it's got to be dried, it's got to be clean, graded. There's quite a bit of time involved in doing that, so there's some costs for the seed harvester, but there's still a pretty good return for the landowner.
And David, what the costings on, you know, per hectare for what you did the other day, just so.
Well, look, I've got no idea because I haven't got the bill yet. But look, I think we had about 7 kilos of Queensland bluegrass. Now people say, well, Queensland bluegrass, does that come from Burra? Owen's wife is a botanist, and she and her father used to walk around the shoulders of the hills around Canberra daily or weekly, and they've seen those hills covered in Queensland bluegrass in their time. So they are species that would have occurred here. They've been pushed into the background or maybe even disappeared because of our grazing management over 100 years plus. But they certainly will grow here. So it's good to have a variety of things that I don't like necessarily sowing things that didn't occur here, but I think it's quite valid to toss a bit of seed around of stuff that used to be here. We've done a little bit of kangaroo grass. I've just harvested that round the roads by hand. It's a bit of a shy cedar, but if you see kangaroo grass growing well, not a surprise why it disappeared quickly, because stock love it. And if you set stock, it just disappears very fast. But you know, if you had kangaroo grass in this mix here, it'd be a real benefit.
Just on the point you made in our earlier video this morning, David, experience we've had is certainly with an introduced species being lucerne, where stock have moved in a paddock that we've split up, and half of it was lucerne and the other half was an old cropping paddock. We're seeing a lot of lucerne that's been carried, the seed in their dung, and deposited in this, you know, a place we didn't sow lucerne, and it's very healthy. So it's, you know, that sort of moving from one paddock to the other, which you touched on before, is you know, our unpaid sort of, you know, helpers there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Doing a wonderful job of spreading it around.
Terrific. But I think the thing with lucerne is we didn't have too much lucerne. You know, we'd sow it with pastures after crops, and it really didn't persist much because we were grazing it for far too long a period. So it gradually died out over only a few years, really. However, when we started this sort of regenerative agricultural mindset, there were still paddocks that had a few plants in them, and you're not looking at the lucerne anymore, you're looking at the grasses. And by the time the grasses have recovered, the lucerne's always got ripe seed on it. So the cattle eat that, and as Charlie said, I've got pictures of dung pats with hundreds of seedlings coming up. So I'm not that interested in lucerne, but it's at times it can be a very useful thing. It makes you feel good when it's green when nothing else is.
We'll move on somewhere else,
I
David.
think so. Yeah.